Freeze the rent has been a huge pull for Zon Mondani's campaign, driving Gen Z with hopes and dreams of free stuff, driving them to the polls. But like most of us, we learned at a young age, there's no such thing as free. Somebody else has to pay for it. And as the saying goes, the problem with socialism, that eventually you run out of other people's money. It's exactly what mom and pop landlords are worried about. Mondani's housing policy could destroy their businesses and dry up all the funds. Small landlords are already reeling from higher inflation, steeper mortgage rates, not being able to raise rents to keep up with rising costs, maybe the nail in the coffin. That means no money for renovations, improvements, or expansion. It will also make it nearly impossible for owners to sell in.
How does anybody think that that's not an amazing thing? And I can understand the argument, that a lot of the left makes. They're just not. I don't know if they're just not intellectually honest. So it's a price control. Now, would anybody think that in any other capacity that a price control is, one, a smart thing to do, and two, like, justifiable? How can I own something and you're telling me what I can sell it for? You're telling me what I can loan it out for. Why not price control on car rentals? Why not price control on the grocery stores? Why not price control on, just name anything and slap a price control on it. What do you think you're going to get? What do you think you're going to get? Let's say you're a hair salon and they slap a price control saying you can only charge X amount for hair services. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think there's going to be more salons that get, opened up because of that? And do you think the salons that are open are going to provide, are there going to be any salons that provide a much better service than another salon when they can only charge a certain amount of money? Oh, you're going to see the exact same thing that happens with housing. You're going to see less of it. It's going to be shittier. That's what's going to happen. That's all price controls do. And, people are coming at it where the left comes at it, the socialists, the communists, they come at it that they only see one side of it. They just see the side that this person is going to get X service for X amount. Okay, fine. First off, there's going to be there's only a limited supply of the service or the item or whatever. So if it all costs the same and it's open to everybody, then it's going to run out. That's just the nature of it, because there isn't, it's not limitless supply of something. So it's going to run out. There's only a finite amount of stuff that's there. So that's going to run out. The people that are left now, what are they? They just don't have homes. They don't have a place to live. Right. And the landlords they're not going to create more housing to what? So now I'm going to spend all this money on a house to then what? Not charge what I need to charge to get my money back?
This city. Kevin, this will fall on deaf ears, these cries for please don't.
So pragmatically, I and others who invest in real estate have tried to get a meeting to figure out what's rhetoric and what's policy. So far for me, it's been crickets. I think it's a mistake on his part. I'm a rational person. I'm only interested in one thing, and I think he has to address this. I get it what he's doing on the rhetoric, everything for free and rents don't go up. What happens on new builds? We need to build a new building. So let's say we need 20%.
Mamdani pricing housing plan, $100 billion over 10 years. Build 200,000 new publicly subsidized rent stabilized units. Okay. Rent freeze on rent stabilized apartments. Double funding to preserve NYCHA in public housing, which, if you don't know, is fantastic. Fast track status for any 100% affordable housing projects. So those are his ideas. They sound terrific, by the way. Nothing that would actually create, slums or ghettos or anything like that. I'm sure they're going to be just really swell run entities that are just devoid of any crime, and they're just going to be rolling fields of green, and they're going to be beautiful. I guarantee it. Nothing can go wrong.
% more affordable housing. Love to invest in that. So we go to the debt and we go to the equity markets to do that. So my simple question to him is, look, I understand what you're trying to do, and you got to get elected, but tell me how you're going to do this. I got to put $50 million into a building to build it, just to get it going. And the market's going to want probably somewhere between an 8 and 11% return on the construction financing. And then when I stabilize it, they'll be happy with 7-8% return. You're telling me I have to have frozen rent rates, even going into 3% inflation. How am I going to be able to raise any money for a new build? Not just me, anybody. How can anybody, including you, by the way, you Mr. Free for Everything guy, how are you going to get that money out of the market when the return is negative? Now, what is the answer to that? Because people should ask themselves, how are we going to get a new building to live in or to have an office in or a store in the city of New York, which is in itself a country, when there's a zero return policy, a negative return policy on capital? Now, that's what's going on here. So if you're thinking of voting for this guy, you're going to continue to live in rat holes as they deteriorate, but worse, there'll be no new builds.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah.
So I think he should have, maybe not me, doesn't want to talk to me, no problem.
He doesn't want to talk to you because he can't answer that question.
And that was a point. I mean, he says a lot better because he's, you know, so he's a smart finance guy, money guy. But that was my exact point. At what he's claiming, right? The route that he's going. By the way, please subscribe to the channel. Please, one little click, just a little click the button right there. I know you can do it. Come on, click. Thank you. You know, essentially what he's doing is he is just locking everybody out of the market. Nobody's going to want to invest. Nobody's going to want to build anything, right? It's a supply and demand, right? There is maximum amount of demand. There's not going to be much supply. Why? Because in order to make that supply, there needs to be an incentive that you're going to make money. Why would you do anything? Why would you invest in anything? Why would you open a pizza shop if somebody says you can only sell the pizzas for $1 a slice? And you go, well, I mean, I have to build the shop. I have to do all this stuff like that. And just the raw materials of the slice itself cost $1. So I can't do that. What do? You don't open a pizza shop. It's very simple, right? If there are impediments put in the way of an investor making a return, then they're not going to invest. It's a very simple proposition. You have to, if you're going to invest in something, those guys will just take their money and just throw it in the S&P and say, you know what? The reason why people, you know, make buildings and stuff like that is they're familiar with the territory, they understand what they're doing, and they know that the return, because these are not people with small amounts of cash. These are wealthy people that they want to become more wealthy, right? And they understand that this is a good diversification. Maybe they have a ton of money in stocks, stuff like that, and this is another source of income, another source of diversified money that where they can generate income for themselves. And if they don't see the return, they're not going to do it. Just makes sense.
Like,
Well,
there's no answer to the question you just posed to him.
I've got,
that he
you know
will
what I
have
want?
for
What
you.
I want to do is sit them down and say, look, I got millions of followers, great American entrepreneurs, families, millions of them. You don't have to go on TV and talk about this. Come on my TV. Let's just record an interview together, and I'll post it, and you explain what you're going to do here to attract capital. And I'm the first $1 million check.
You know, there is a affordable housing industry in New York. A friend of mine is a builder of that sort of stuff. It's incredibly complicated. I'm not going to profess any knowledge of it. There is a way to get a vig out of it, okay, to get some money out of it. And it's incredibly tedious. There's a lot of different government agencies you have to
Not when there's a 0% chance of raising rents against inflation.
But, you know, we don't.
Yeah, I don't know what that's Charlie Gasper. I don't know what he's talking about here. He kind of every now and again he comes out like a little bit of a lefty. I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to say. He basically is saying, yeah, you can still make money on it. All right. So let's say you can still make money on it, and take him to what he was saying. It's very tedious. It's very difficult. Why would you want that? Right? You should still be railing against it, even if it's tedious and the entry level to the business model or to the idea should be as low level as low entry as you can. If you got the cash, let's go. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Why? Because people need places to live, and the more units you have, the cheaper they can be. The less units you have, the more demand there is for the smaller supply. It's like Econ 101, right? I don't know anything about like economics, but I can understand that, right? If I have one Michael Jordan rookie card, it's worth X. If all of a sudden I open a box and there's 10,000 of them, it's not worth shit anymore, right? Because the supply is overwhelmed by the demand. A lot of people don't want it. Now there's 10,000 of them. So now it's worth a lot less than it was before. It's a pretty simple, it's a simple idea.
It's hard for him to raise rates raise rents as it. I'm not defending him, by the way. He's just going to make it worse. The question is not to add to the system that is already in place now. Is how do you free markets to build stuff? Because there is there's marshlands in the Bronx. Why can't we build some affordable housing there? Well, there's environmental problems with that. So,
Yeah, but the idea, you don't need to build affordable housing. Just build fucking houses. Let the people build houses. Some are going to build really high-end condominiums. There are going to be other people that are going to understand there's a marketplace for people that don't have that money, and they're going to build maybe bigger buildings and have larger volume or whatever they can afford to make, right? And there'll be lower income people that take those opportunities. The government doesn't have to do shit. All it has to do is get out of the way. Just get out of the way. All you have to do.
So there's a lot of issues here that Zohan Mandami literally skips over and says, "I'll just give it to you for free."
Yeah, well, it's also something that we know doesn't work. These policies have been tried before. I'm just
Well,
going to read.
you know it
I'm just,
doesn't
no,
work.
well,
His
not only-
voters don't
Not
know it
only
doesn't
do I, but the New York Times editorial board in the 1990s wrote, "Rent control perpetuates the very problems it's designed to fix, a housing shortage."
Yeah.
That was the New York Times. Now, of course, they've gotten all squishy on the subject and forget the common sense that they had back in the 1990s. But the point is, we have a rental vacancy rate of 1.4%. That means there's very few rental properties available right now. We have to incentivize people like Kevin and people like the folks you know to build more rental properties, and they're just not going to do it. If there's any, even with the current regulations on rent stabilization, we're going to have problems. But so there has to be more incentivization, not perverse incentives that he wants to add on top of this big cake of regulations.
The strategy of these leftists is to fail up. So he comes in and he's mayor of New York City, and he puts these policies in place, and it takes a period of years for them to really show themselves. And by the time that's happening, he's already moved on to run for governor. And somebody else comes into New York City and has to try to figure out how to make sense of this. He doesn't have answers to your questions. He doesn't look at a 135-pound bar on a bench press and understand the implications of that. There's no way he understands what you're talking about. So he just doesn't answer. And I know, I agree, we understand what rent control does, but I am telling you, the people in the city who love him do not get it.
And by the way,
they
upstate-
do not get it, and they think he's just going to figure it out. Those are their words. He'll figure it out.
It's not even that they'll figure it out. They believe, right? They believe that that's the right thing to do, right? When you're talking about liberals, when you're talking about socialists, when you're talking about communists, they believe that the government will control it, and then everyone will get a piece. Everyone will have a seat at the table. Everyone will get a piece of the pie. Everyone will enjoy the fruits of what? I don't know. $100 billion or whatever it was he says he's going to pump into the system to make housing. It is so infuriating that people think that the most efficient way to spend money is to spend somebody else's money to another party, right? That's what's happening, right? Taxpayers are paying money. Somebody's getting it. They're all going to bid on contracts. Somebody's going to get a contract. And then that contract will probably sublet to another contract. And then that guy will build it with the money that was handed over 4 times over. Is that going to be efficient? Remember the skating rink in New York? It took like 20 years. And then Trump came in and did it in 6 months. I remember that. Why? Because it was government contract after government contract after government contract. And people just bleach off the system. If they're effective at getting the job done, first of all, they definitely don't want to finish under budget because why would they do that? Right? They're going to want to go over budget because they know that they're going to get it. Because at that point, what are you going to do? Not pay them to finish the job? No, they know they're going to get the money. So they go over budget, whatever percentage that they're allowed. And they're going to skimp on all the supplies. They're going to take an extra long time because that's just going to make the job cost more money. We know how this goes. It's not a private entity that's saying, I want to do this as well, as efficient as possible. I don't want to make a piece of shit because nobody's going to hire me to do this ever again, right? I want to do it as quickly as I can because I need to go to the next job to make money. And I want to leave them a product that they're going to want more of, right? That person's going to be able to rent or that person's going to be able to sell or whatever. They're going to be profitable, making me profitable in the end.
Remember, rent control, it's rent stabilization. Rent control is a portion of it, is a state law. Okay? It's approved.
How's it working out?
Not very well. And want to hear something really interesting? So Andrew Cuomo, who I personally really like, went after Mondami on living in a rent-stabilized apartment. We should point out that 50% of all apartments, almost every apartment in New York is some sort of stabilization, except for the very high end, right? And obviously it doesn't affect housing ownership. So he goes after him on rent stabilization, saying, oh, you make $150,000 a year as a congressman or what, assemblyman, and your wife is rich, and you shouldn't be able to live in a place for $2,500 a month. What Cuomo left out is that he took away some of the caps on rent stabilization. That would have forced Mondami to pay what's known as a market rate on that apartment because Andrew Cuomo took away the cap.
That
on
market
income
rate's
and
probably
everything.
$7,500.
By the way, I still don't understand how a poor person, and this is what I'm going to ask Andrew this. How does a poor person, because he mentioned a single mother, poor single mother, she should be in that apartment. How does she afford $2,500 a month rent? It's still too high.
She can't. She's got
She's
to
in the
move
wrong
in with
city.
family.
Yeah, that's the
They're
whole thing.
trying to accommodate everybody to live in the most expensive city to live in. And it's impossible, particularly as we're going to see people like Kevin and other entrepreneurs move out of the city
Wait till
because of
everybody
all
leaves,
these new
then she
regulations.
can afford that apartment because people are going to leave.
All
This
the
guy
tax
gets in.
money is
It's
going
really
away.
a plea to New Yorkers. Let me invest in you. Let investors like me invest in you. Do not let this guy become your mayor until he explains what's rhetoric
can't.
and what's policy. I believe in rhetoric. I think politicians should say anything they want during a campaign if they think they can win. But what's the real policy? And he won't meet with any of us. None of
Well,
us.
he did meet with some business leaders. I will say this. He's not that much different than the rank and file Democrats in this city and state, just so you know. Not that much different.
Look,
And
Charlie,
that's
it doesn't
the
have to be
scary
me. Just meet with anybody, and then that
No,
person
but
can
I'm just
come out and
telling
tell us what
you,
he's
as
doing.
you as a businessman, if you're thinking of putting money here, say Mondami.
I want to.
Say Mondami loses and Cuomo gets in there, or Eric Adams, or maybe Curtis. Take Curtis out because he'll be much more free market. If you have a Democrat, a conventional Democrat in that seat, he's never going to govern that much different than Mondami. He's literally the tip of the spear of something
Okay, but
much
would he
bigger.
give me a permit? Would he let me at least raise rents to inflation?
Maybe.
Well, that's a real
would they-
gift.
Would they?
Remember, he also hates cops. He hates cops. The hatred was just spewing out of his Twitter posts of a couple of years ago. Now he claims that he's fine with them, but after a cop was killed the other week.
Yeah.
But this guy hates police, and he still wants to depolice our
He's
city.
very-
He wants to get rid of jails, the whole shebang.
He's a very bad guy to
He
be
is.
in office. We all know that. I'm just telling you, in this state, knowing what I know about state politics, he's really not the. He's really part
After
of the
having
norm.
said all this stuff about him, let's invite him to the panel here.
I've tried. He never calls me. He doesn't return calls.
You can use my name.
Trust me on this.
That and 250 will get him into the subway.
He's not exactly like giving interviews out, except for to maybe I don't know.
He
New York
I
Times.
tried to staff. I've done everything I can, and it's been crickets.
Yeah, so that's what the city's facing. My personal opinion, he's probably going to win. He's going to have a massive outpouring of yuppie liberals. That's just the way it is. They're the ones that control. They are the voting bloc of New York City. From my understanding, the black population is going to be voting for Cuomo. I don't think he's got a shot. I don't think Sliwa has a shot in hell as winning. I would, prefer that obviously over any of the current people. I would prefer Adams way over Mamdani, obviously. I mean, without saying. I just think that the way it's going down with the split that they're going to have, Adams is running as an independent, Mamdani on the left, Curtis on the right, and I don't see an out. Personally, for me, hopefully I'm out of the city relatively soon, so it won't affect me that much. But I really hate to see a place that I've spent the majority of my life going down the tubes, and obviously a lot of people that I care about are going to suffer, and it's not good. And the writing's on the wall. I mean, there's no denying what somebody like this will do to an urban city. I mean, you could look at Chicago, Baltimore. Just choose any major urban city. I mean, New York was just a beautiful gem, not 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I mean, the streets were clean. No homeless, no open drug use. It was just a beautiful place to live. It honestly was. Like it was just one of those. It was one of those cities where you could actually be proud as an American to say, "Wow, this place is awesome." And it is absolute trash right now. There's no other way to say it. You don't feel safe. I would never want my family to go down there. It is just dirty, dingy. It's Gotham. It has become Gotham again, unfortunately. We haven't arisen to the point where we were in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s, where we had thousands of murders a year. And a lot of that, and this, I don't know how many people are going to get to this point in the video, but I'll talk about this in another video. A lot of that actually, the fact that people aren't dying, there aren't so many homicides, a lot of people overlook the fact that that's probably a product. When people say that it's safer now because there are less murders. Okay, you could say that. But there's also has been a paradigm shift. And one of the things that has probably prevented or eliminated a lot of the murders that probably would have happened back in the 80s and 90s? Cell phones. Without the advent of the cellular phone and quick access to a 911 system, a lot of these shootings probably would have ended up in murders. So it's not just the place is safer, is that our technology has now allowed us to get to these victims, shooting victims, and these scenarios a lot faster, a lot more accuracy than we were ever able to, before cell phones. That's just one little pin that, it's kind of like an asterisk, like when a guy uses steroids and he can't get into the Hall of Fame, there's a little asterisk there. Cell phones is an asterisk when it comes to crime stats. People don't understand that as these devices became more prevalent, it's just one of those things. If you can get to a shooting victim, every second literally does count. So that's just one of those things. I'll put a pin in that. We'll do a video on that later at a later date. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283 Talk on the X if you want to meet me there. Please hit the subscribe button. Just a little click, hit the notification bell. Thank you guys for coming out. I am John Soto. I'll see you again in the next video. Take care.